Hey there, another not so great tutorial for you from me to you, and this time I saw this post in Cebas thinkingParticles group, and Tarin was trying to do and he's trying to do and he's doing it, and he found a solution to create particles only in the white part of the mesh, a little bit more complex than I think it should be. And I've decided, hey, I've made a similar thing on my project over here. Let me just show you here the shot. Okay, I think it's around here. Yes, something, a wave that I've animated, the mesh, and then I created some foam. And well, that's it. Let's start our tutorial. So I will show you the basic simulation. Well,
Then everybody deserves. Then everybody deserves.
cool. And now how we can add some extra foam detail controlled with the power of thinkingParticles. Cool. So now my tutorials are smaller and I've decided to make from the scratch, so you fully understand how to make it instead of being all done over here. So let's make a quick setup over here. Okay, and I hope this tutorial will be 20 minutes long. That's what I'm aiming. So here, foam, and then I will call FlowBoundary. FlowBoundary is all the meshes that we are going to use to collide with the fluids. So here I will call this foam setup, or foam tool, why not? So we can have some fun doing some, expose some values to user afterwards if we want. Let me just check it. So create over here, again dynamics, and then fluids, and then the solver. And I think this will be enough. So it's really fun, easy setup. So first thing, let me try to cover everything. Let me just, yeah, okay, over here. Sorry, okay, because I have on my other screen the setup made, so if I have some values that I've already tested, it's faster to get them. So let's use a very powerful generator, MatterWaves. Many people don't know the power of this stuff, okay? And I will show you the power of it by creating over here particles on the mesh. Let me just here pick object emitter. Okay, and let's say we have 1000 particles per second. Let's see what happens in real time. Cool. I will change this to points or dots. I will save this if something bad happens, like a crash of 3D Studio Max crash, and I will just use here on the conditions something that is cool. I will only create particles on frame 2, from frame 2 to the end, and this is because then we can go back and don't slow down the process, because it will only start creating particles at frame 2. So this is one cool tip that I used a lot, so I don't create particles in frame 1 or the first frame of the animation. Okay, cool. So this is it. We are creating particles, and they are, I think, let me just check, I think they are 3 seconds, so let me just make 1 second, 50%, and let's check. It's live. Okay, so I think this will be cool. So each particle will live for 1 second with a 50% variation. Cool. But now we only want to create particles on the wave crest, or on a specific area that I want. So I will show you a simple material that I've done for this with the gradients. I will show you on the view part. Okay, cool. So, and I want to create particles only in this white part. So that's very powerful over here on MatterWaves. We go to the emitter, and here we will say that we want to use material map from the mesh, and then the threshold like 0.5 or 0.25, because then it will create on the gray areas also. So this is it. Really cool. Now we are only creating particles where we want. Let me just put a little bit more particles over here, like let's say 10,000 instead of 1,000. Cool. And now we can see, let me just here check it over here. Yeah. Let me just check. Okay, cool. Yeah. But now you can see the patterns of the creation. We have to make some randomness, right? So again, in MatterWaves you can do this. So you just have to go here, random, and put 100% randomness. Oops, 100, and okay, it's much more natural, the creation of the particles. So the first part, and of course we just want to finish creating particles in this frame, so frame 63 is here. Let's finish up the creation of particles, and we have the basic setup over here. But as you can see, the particles have no speed, and they are just creating, and then the speed is the standard one we have over here, 10 centimeters with a variation of 0%. So for now I will show you some very interesting stuff, but not in this object, because this object is moving, and I prefer, like, I create here a box, okay, and I will isolate it. Okay, so, and instead of creating particles on the wave, let's create particles over here. Okay, so the box, and then I will apply the material also to this object, and let's, oh, of course, I have to isolate with DP, of course. Okay, so now you can see the particles. I will use as a test mesh, so because the other mesh is so fast that you can't understand the changes of the velocity that I want to show you. So one thing we can try, it's use a bitmap or a noise. So I will use this noise over here. It's a simple noise from 3D Studio Max, and I will put it over here on the speed. Cool. And now we will see 500 centimeters, like 50%, and we will see that this noise is creating different velocities. So you see these ones are faster than here, and you can also say, oh, Suki, my dog is barking to the neighbor, not cool. So instead of dots, let's see drops over here. Okay, so now we can see a little bit better, and I will make even more speed over here, so we can see like 1500, and let's see. Okay, so you can see that with this noise we create particles going faster than the others, because the noise has this difference. And of course, if I change the size, so this time we can do a really cool thing. It's edit on the fly, so we can see the changes. So we change the size over here, and we see immediately what's happening over here. So it's a really cool way to control the speed. And if you want, like for instance, we can go here 0.5 or 0.1 or point, you see, changing the values from the noise will give more differences. So we can use really low values over here, and you can see the power of MatterWaves just with maps controlling velocity, where they are burning, and so on. Okay, cool. I will leave it like this for now, and I don't want the box anymore. I just wanted to show you, because if we test it on the wave is so fast that we would not understand as we understand in a non-moving object. Okay, cool, super cool. So now remove the box and let's pick again the wave over here. If I pick over here, you have to be careful because there are other objects behind, other objects, and we have to remove them. So I just want the wave. Okay, we have 500 velocity with a 50% variation, and let's see what's happening now in real time. Okay, so let's just put it over here on the camera. Okay, cool. But as you can see, even this velocity is because the velocity of the object is so fast, we should inherit velocity from the emitter. And again, MatterWaves can do that pretty easy. You just go here and you have to motion inheritance. I will give it like a 75% with a 50% variation. And now it's much more interesting stuff because the particles are inheriting the velocity of the emitter. Okay, cool. And of course, if the emitter moves faster, the particles will move faster, like this in the end. Okay, like we are seeing over here. So really cool stuff, but this is just MatterWaves without any fluid setup. So just trying to explain how to emit particles and how to control velocity and how to give some different velocities using a bitmap and so on. In this case, not a bitmap, a noise. Cool. I think we have the basic setup over here. I will change to points again, to dots. I will save the scene. And as you can see, this is really fast, really cool, almost in real time. Okay, so now let's give some rules. I think this is the basic setup that I've done. Let me just check the values over here, but I think this is it. So we can go and let me just check if, okay, I'm creating, important, I have to send them to the foam group, okay? I forgot to tell you, but I remembered now. So here, foam, I will give them force. Cool. Of course, I want the particles to have gravity. And a 0.3. If you don't use the keyboard shortcut, you just go to helpers, standard or math 0.3 over here, okay? But I use a lot the keyboard shortcuts. So force, sometimes you don't know if you use -9 or -900. This depends on the scale scene, on your scale scene. So here I will use 250. Again, I use a lot of variation because I want to pretend that some of these particles are more heavy than the others. So here is a really easy setup, easy to have this variation. And of course, if I'm using a negative value over here, I have to make the positive Z, and of course they will fall down. Okay, cool. The original setup is done, just particles falling down and inherent with the motion inherits from the original object, and just creating on the white part of the mesh, on the white part of the texture that we are using, this gradient. And now I can add a little bit turbulence because I've created here this wind, and again we could use again the box to check the results, but I have already done that, so this was the win that I've used. I just have to bind it to TP. Then I will go to the operators, dynamics, standard force, and I will have wind over here, activate it, and now we can see a little bit turbulence added. Of course, you can play around. Again, this is really cool because if you want to play around in real time, you just edit on the fly, and then you can change it over here. The turbulence, like 10. I will go to higher values, so it's okay. So this is really not that cool, but okay. We can go to the scale, and we can see in real time what we are doing. But again, I found these were the values that I wanted in the end. So okay, now we have some turbulence, and I think I will add another thing. So what happens in real foam from the waves? They tend to have some friction from the air, right? So I will add a friction over here. Okay, and I think a value of 1 is enough. So let's see what happens now. Okay, so they are fast, but then they tend to lose some velocity. Of course, if I want to see the effect, like 10, I think they will stop immediately. Yeah, and I don't want that kind of friction, so I will use a value of 1, and it's enough. Okay, so we have the basic setup for the particles. I've explained the power of MatterWaves a little bit because we have a lot more. We can, on the MatterWaves, we can use textures for live spanning, for the speed, for the sizes, and the emit distance, and so on. So I just covered a few things about MatterWaves, but it's enough for now. Now let's go to the fluids. Cool. So first of all, I tend to create first the solver, so FlowSolver, because now when I go to fluids and I create over here flow group, I have already the solver created, so it's already here. Well, but just me, you can do it how you want. So I will say that the group that I want to become a fluid will be the group foam, and let's see what happens now. Okay, again, all in real time, and you will say, well, nothing happened. Well, first of all, the fluids, we should have more particles to have more fluid behavior, because now we only have a few particles and we cannot see that much. But I will put oh, it's edit on the fly, it's turned on. So let me change over here so you can see the, for instance, the tension. So let me go to the frame here, or in the beginning here. Yeah, let me just zoom in over here. And if you see tension over here, yeah, you see that changing these values, we now have more fluid behavior, because 5 will be with more tension, because the fluids tend to have some tension. I will use a value of 3 for now. Let me just check. The values that I've changed over here in my setup was density 5, the fluid tension at 3, and I've killed particles that are alone, that are isolated. As you can see, the power of TP, you can see everything in real time using few particles. But even if I use, like, now I'm using 10,000, oops, sorry, like 100,000 particles. Cool. And even though we have 100,000 particles per second, when I change here the for instance, the tension, we have almost in real time the changes. So this is really cool. Really thinking particles is great. One thing, you can see these pink things going on over here, and this is just here show pressure. I don't want to show pressure because I don't need it, so, and it's faster from the viewport. So let me just change again to camera, and let's make the first preview over here, okay? So cool. As you can see, the particles are falling. They have some behavior of liquid already. I have to check the other values, but they are not hitting anything. They are not colliding. And okay, so this is the first preview. Cool. So we had the friction, we had some velocity, we added the fluid's behavior, but now we have to say what to collide. And again, the power of TP and layerToParticle this time. Let me just save this. Now we go here on the creation and we'll create so operators, generators, layerToParticle. So I will say, and I will disconnect this now, the edit on the fly, so it's not trying to every change that I make to be in real time. So now I have to go back and forward to see what happened. So I will change now for 10,000 particles to be faster, and I will say that I will create to the group FlowBoundary everything that is on my layer FlowBoundary. So as you can see, the FlowBoundary layer has this wave, the character, the mountain. So I just have to say flow, and I will just use this, okay? And as you can see, it will go search the layers that start with flow and the string and all the rest, and automatically it turns to particles, to the FlowBoundary group. Okay, so that's it, but I have to be very careful not to forget to tracking object to particle, because if I don't track, they will keep on as they are in the first frame. So it has to be tracking all the frames. As you can see now, nothing happens because I have to create a FlowBoundary group over here. So not a group, but an operator, flow group, FlowBoundary, and FlowSolver again. And this time I just have to check over here. And what happens? As you can see, it starts moving around because it's hitting and so on. You have to unyielding click over here so this stuff doesn't move. Okay, cool. And as you can see, we have already collisions. So let me just put 30,000 particles, and let's make a preview create. So we have the basic setup, we have the collisions, and really cool. Yeah. So the basic stuff is over here. So now I think imagine the director, in this case it was me, so I directed myself. Imagine the director wants some custom foam in particular movements of the character. Let's say, let me just turn off the system, and let's see, I want more particles here on when the curve happens and he makes this movement. Okay, and then I want here at the end. So I've created this plane, very hard to make. Okay, I've animated over here some keyframes, and I'm going to use this plane to create particles in these two specific moments. So just the thinking particles is really great because I just have to copy this, and I will say that a condition I will create on the time interval. Let's say I will create over here on frame 25 to 35. Then I will create again over here when he starts to jump. Okay, over here at frame 54 and 65. Let's say. Okay, and then I have to put an hour, or sorry, not hour, or condition. So because I want to create particles in this specific time and this one, or in this one. So now instead of the wave, I will pick the plane. Again, as you can see, I picked, but he picked a lot of other stuff, so I just have to see plane. 30,000 particles seems great. I will disconnect this one and turn on MasterDynamics. Let's see. Now we can see that they are creating over here. Bang! And then creating over here. Oh my god, such control over effect. And of course, now we have the setup done. Of course, you can tweak around the values. Let me just okay, over here, sorry, connect this one. I will put like let's say 100,000 particles over here, and on this one I think 15,000. Oops, not okay. Cool. And let's make a preview over here. And I think I finished this tutorial because I think this is enough to show you. I don't have to make the final one, the final simulation, because now it's tweaking values until you find what you want. Okay, but this is really cool. I hope you have liked it. I just show the preview, and if you have some comments that you want to leave, just leave them. And if you want, I have some questions about new tutorials on the Facebook, but I don't have that much time to do tutorials all my life. I don't win money with that, so it's on my free time. And today my family went to Lisbon and I'm here alone at home, and I found it a little bit time, like 1 hour, to make this, prepare the stuff and so on. So see you soon. Be cool.